What if I told you that the Bible we all know might be missing crucial details about the creation, the lives of the patriarchs, and even the laws of God himself? The Book of Jubilees, preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, claims to fill in the gaps, revealing hidden stories and adding deeper insight into God's divine plan. But here's the thing. This book was banned from most of the Christian world. In today's video, we'll be uncovering the mysterious Book of Jubilees, also known as Little Genesis, and exploring why its extensive chapters were excluded from the mainstream Christian Bible. This ancient text holds lost details about the Genesis narrative, giving us a cosmic perspective on how angels, heavenly time, and hidden commandments were passed down to humanity. But the Book of Jubilees didn't just stop there. It even insists that the calendar most of the world follows is wrong, and that time itself was given a sacred structure by God that few follow today. So why was this ancient text rejected by the early church? What secrets does it contain that were deemed too controversial from mainstream Christianity? The Book of Jubilees begins with a retelling of the creation story that we know from Genesis, but goes far beyond what most Bibles include. According to Jubilees, when God created the world, he didn't just bring life into being. He also set up the very structure of time itself, aligning it with his divine order. This is where the concept of sacred time comes in. Unlike the traditional calendar most of us follow, the Book of Jubilees introduces a precise solar calendar overseen by heavenly angels that governs the cosmic cycles of the universe. This isn't just about counting days. It's about living in perfect alignment with God's will. Jubilees claims that humanity was meant to follow this divine calendar, which consists of 364 days divided into 4 seasons of exactly 91 days each. This structure ensures that sacred days like the Sabbath and festivals always fall on the correct date. It's a perfect system, but it's one that the rest of the world has forgotten. In the Book of Genesis, the story begins with the creation of the earth, but Jubilees gives us an even bigger picture. Before the world was even formed, angels were created on the first day of creation. These angels play a crucial role in the governance of the universe, including the regulation of time and seasons. The Book of Jubilees reveals that these angels were assigned specific duties by God, with some overseeing natural phenomena like the movements of the heavens, and others serving as messengers and guardians of God's laws. This idea of angels controlling the heavens is something we also see in other ancient texts, but the Book of Jubilees emphasizes how these angelic beings help maintain order in the universe, ensuring that the sun, moon, and stars follow their divine paths. God ordained that the sun should keep its course according to the divisions of the seasons. These angels don't just watch over humanity, they control the very fabric of time. When humans fall out of alignment with God's time, it leads to chaos, a theme that plays a central role throughout the Book of Jubilees. One of the most controversial elements of the Book of Jubilees is its insistence that the world should follow a solar calendar, not the lunar calendar that many ancient cultures, including the Israelites, eventually adopted. According to Jubilees, the solar calendar is the only correct way to measure time because it aligns perfectly with God's divine order. The book explains that the solar year consists of 364 days divided into 52 perfect weeks. Each season, spring, summer, fall, and winter, contains exactly 13 weeks or 91 days. This system ensures that the Sabbath and other sacred festivals are always observed on the correct days each year. This solar calendar is strikingly similar to the Ethiopian calendar, which is still used today by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The Ethiopian year is divided into 13 months, 12 months of 30 days with an additional month called Pagum, consisting of 5 or 6 days to make up the difference. Could it be that the Ethiopian calendar is one of the few modern systems that still reflect the sacred time described in Jubilees? In contrast, the lunar calendar, which was adopted by many cultures in the ancient world, including the Israelites, is seen as a corruption of this divine order. The lunar calendar is irregular, causing the months and festivals to shift over time, and Jubilees warns that this deviation from the solar calendar leads to spiritual disorder. There will be those who will surely make observations of the moon, but they will disturb the seasons and make an abominable day, the Day of Testimony. For Jubilees, following the lunar calendar is not just a mistake. It's a form of disobedience to God's will. The book suggests that by returning to the solar calendar, humanity can realign itself with the divine rhythms set in motion at the creation of the world. The Book of Jubilees reaffirms the traditional 6-day creation narrative found in Genesis, but goes into more detail about the first Sabbath. According to Jubilees, God didn't just rest on the seventh day. He sanctified it as a divine institution, an eternal law that was given to both humans and angels. The Sabbath is seen as the foundation of time, a day that was set apart at the beginning of creation and meant to be observed forever. This idea of the Sabbath as a cosmic principle is critical in Jubilees. Not only does it govern the weekly cycle, but it also ties into the larger structure of time, including the Jubilee cycles of 49 years. These cycles are meant to bring the world back into harmony with God's order, offering a period of rest, release, and renewal for the land, the people, and even the angelic realm. He sanctified the seventh day and blessed it for all times as a sign of holiness for all his works. The emphasis on the Sabbath as an eternal law shows how Jubilees is not just retelling the Genesis story. It's revealing the hidden significance behind the cycles of time that govern all of creation. The Book of Jubilees tells us that Adam was created on the sixth day, just as described in Genesis, but it adds a new layer to his story. According to Jubilees, after creating Adam, God gave him specific commandments right from the beginning, laws that included the observance of the Sabbath, purity laws, and rules concerning marriage and worship. These laws, delivered by angels, were to be followed by Adam and his descendants as part of the covenant God made with humanity. While Genesis mentions God's direct interactions with Adam, Jubilees introduces angelic beings as mediators who teach Adam how to follow God's commandments. These angels, particularly those known as the angels of the presence, ensure that Adam and Eve understand the laws of holiness, sacrifice, and moral conduct. On the sixth day of the second week, we brought, according to the word of God, to Adam all the beasts and all the cattle and all the birds and everything that moves on the earth and everything that moves in the water, according to their kinds. This angelic interaction was meant to reinforce the idea that God's law is not just a human invention, but part of the heavenly order. The angels taught Adam that he must observe God's laws as an eternal covenant, just as they observe the same laws in the heavenly realm. Could it be that God's laws passed down through angels were given to humans long before Moses received the Ten Commandments? And what might we learn from these ancient laws? After the fall of Adam and Eve, Jubilees adds new insight into the story of their children, Cain and Abel. While Genesis tells us that Cain killed Abel, the Book of Jubilees provides additional details about the events that followed. Cain's murder of Abel is seen as the first major breach of God's law, a sin that leads to spiritual consequences for all of humanity. While Cain is cast out, Jubilees emphasizes that the righteous line of humanity continues through Seth, Adam's third son. Seth is portrayed as a figure of righteousness who is taught to follow the laws handed down by the angels, setting the stage for the later descendants, including Noah, to continue the covenant with God. The story of Noah and the flood is well known from Genesis, but the Book of Jubilees offers additional revelations about what happened before and after the Great Flood. In Jubilees, the focus is not just on Noah's survival, but on the covenant God establishes with him afterward, a covenant that emphasizes the importance of purity, righteousness, and observing God's laws. Before the flood, Jubilees delves deeper into the corruption of the earth, particularly focusing on the Nephilim, the offspring of fallen angels and human women. While Genesis briefly mentions the Nephilim, Jubilees provides more context, showing how these giants contribute to the wickedness that led God to cleanse the earth with the flood. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, Jubilees explains. This moral decay was not just due to human sin, but also the influence of fallen angels who introduced forbidden knowledge and corrupted the natural order. God's response is swift. He sends the flood to wipe out this corruption, but preserves Noah and his family because of their righteousness. After the flood, Jubilees reveals that God didn't just promise never to flood the earth again. He also established a new covenant with Noah that included specific laws of purity and sacrifice. These laws, later passed down to the Israelites, were intended to help humanity maintain holiness and avoid the corruption that led to the flood. One key detail in Jubilees is that Noah was instructed to observe the Sabbath and follow the same laws given to Adam about sacrifice and purity. This covenant marked a new beginning for humanity, but also emphasized the importance of remaining obedient to God's laws to prevent further judgment. The laws of sacrifice, which would later be formalized in the Mosaic Law, were already being followed by Noah as part of this covenant. These laws included instructions on how to offer burnt offerings to God and how to remain pure in both body and spirit. In Genesis, We are introduced to Abraham when God calls him to leave his homeland and go to Canaan. But Jubilees takes us further back into Abraham's youth, adding an entirely new dimension to his story. According to Jubilees, Abraham grew up in a family steeped in idolatry. His father terror-worshipped false gods, a detail not mentioned in Genesis. Jubilees paints a vivid picture of a young Abraham who rejects the pagan practices around him, choosing instead to follow the one true God. He said, "My father, tell me, what is this idol you worship?" Abraham saw that it was an image of stone, and Abraham burned them before the eyes of all and fled into the wilderness. While Genesis focuses on Abraham's obedience to God's call to leave his home, Jubilees portrays Abraham as a revolutionary figure, destroying the idols in his father's house and making a bold stand against the idolatry of his time. This act of spiritual rebellion sets the stage for Abraham's later role as the father of the chosen people who would reject pagan practices and follow the laws of God. One of the most striking differences between Genesis and the Book of Jubilees is the idea that Abraham followed divine laws long before Moses was ever born. In Genesis, there's no mention of Abraham being given laws other than the covenant of circumcision. However, in Jubilees, Abraham is presented as someone who already observed the Sabbath, made sacrifices, and followed other laws typically associated with Moses. According to Jubilees, these laws were not invented during the time of Moses. They were passed down from the angels to the patriarchs beginning with Adam. Abraham received these commandments from angels and was expected to follow them as part of his covenant relationship with God. And he was taught by the angels concerning the things written in the tablets of heaven, Jubilees states. Unlike Genesis, where Abraham's actions are seen as part of his personal faith journey, Jubilees presents him as someone who is part of a cosmic plan. He is guided by angels, and the laws he follows are part of a divine order that governs both heaven and earth. These laws include the Sabbath and various purity laws that Moses would later formalize in the Mosaic covenant. The covenant of circumcision is one of the most important moments in Abraham's story. In Genesis, God tells Abraham to circumcise himself and all the males in his household as a sign of the covenant. But Jubilees goes even further, revealing that this was not just a symbolic act. It was part of a cosmic law written on the heavenly tablets. According to Jubilees, circumcision wasn't just a sign for Abraham's descendants. It was a divine law that had existed since the creation of the world. This covenant was inscribed on the heavenly tablets, serving as God's blueprint for creation and containing all the laws that govern both angels and humans. This law is for all generations forever. There is no circumcision of the days and no passing over one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. In Genesis, the focus is on Abraham's obedience to God's command, but Jubilees portrays this act as part of a much larger divine order. Circumcision is not just a physical sign. It's a way of aligning oneself with the cosmic laws that govern the universe. The story of the binding of Isaac, known as the Akedah, is one of the most powerful moments in Genesis. In Genesis, God tests Abraham's faith by asking him to sacrifice his son Isaac. Jubilees retells this story but adds extra layers. In Jubilees, the test is not just between Abraham and God. It's also part of a larger spiritual warfare. According to Jubilees, the angel Master, a figure associated with Satan, suggests this test to God, hoping that Abraham will fail. Master represents the forces of evil constantly seeking to undermine the righteous. The Book of Jubilees adds that angels intervened during the binding, and God allowed the test to show that Abraham's faith was greater than the temptations of evil. I stood before him and before the prince of Master, and the Lord said, "Command him not to lay his hand on the lad nor to do anything to him, for I have shown that he fears the Lord." This story introduces a whole new level of spiritual significance. It's not just a test of Abraham's obedience. It's part of the cosmic battle between good and evil. Master tries to lead Abraham into failure, but God's intervention shows that faithfulness will always triumph over evil. In Genesis, the focus is on Abraham's personal test, but in Jubilees, it's part of a larger spiritual narrative involving angelic forces and the struggle between good and evil. In Genesis, before Jacob and Esau were even born, God revealed to their mother Rebekah that the two brothers would become the heads of two nations and that the older Esau would serve the younger Jacob. Jubilees expands on this prophecy, emphasizing that this wasn't just a family feud. It was part of a cosmic design in which Jacob was always meant to inherit the blessing and continue the line of righteousness that started with Abraham. Jubilees adds a layer of predestination, revealing that Jacob was chosen from birth to carry on the covenant. While Genesis portrays the struggle between Jacob and Esau through Jacob's cunning and Esau's impulsiveness, Jubilees explains that Jacob was always meant to inherit the birthright and that his actions, although deceptive, were part of fulfilling a divine plan. Esau is portrayed as more than just a brother who loses his birthright. Jubilees emphasizes that Esau represents a line of rebellion against God's chosen people. His descendants are portrayed as a nation that will rise in opposition to Israel, fulfilling the prophecy that the elder will serve the younger. This prophetic struggle ties into the idea of a spiritual battle between righteousness, Jacob and Israel, and rebellion, Esau and Edom. In Jubilees, the future of Israel is not left to chance. It is part of a divinely ordained timeline with specific events already recorded in the heavenly tablets. The book provides a prophetic overview of Israel's journey, explaining that their exile, suffering, and restoration were all written in the heavenly records and must unfold according to the divine calendar. The oppression of Israel is framed as part of a larger cosmic conflict between good and evil, with spiritual forces at work trying to undermine God's plan for Israel's deliverance. The plagues of Egypt, according to Jubilees, are not only acts of divine judgment, but also symbolic acts representing the defeat of Egypt's gods and the spiritual forces behind them. Each plague was aimed at disempowering the false gods of Egypt, demonstrating that only the God of Israel had true power over heaven and earth. This portrayal of the plagues as part of a larger cosmic battle adds depth to the traditional narrative, showing that the events were part of the spiritual warfare between good and evil. The Book of Jubilees also emphasizes that the Mosaic Law was observed long before Moses was born. While the traditional Bible portrays Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as righteous individuals, it doesn't specify that they were given the full law other than the covenant of circumcision. Jubilees, on the other hand, claims that the patriarchs were already observing the Sabbath, performing sacrifices, and following many laws typically associated with Moses. This makes the Mosaic Law not a new development, but a restoration of laws that had been passed down from the beginning of time. The patriarchs received these commandments through divine revelation and through angels who guided them. For example, Abraham is described as following the Sabbath, circumcising his sons, and adhering to the commandments written on the heavenly tablets. The law was revealed to him through the angels of God, making it a timeless code given to all the righteous from Adam onward. Moses was simply the one chosen to deliver it in its complete form to the nation of Israel. One of the most unique and profound contributions of the Book of Jubilees to the narrative of the Mosaic Law is its detailed emphasis on the cosmic calendar. Unlike the traditional Bible, which touches upon the significance of timekeeping through the observance of the Sabbath, various festivals, and the Jubilee years, Jubilees delves deeper into the intricate relationship between these observances and the divine order established by God. In Jubilees, the meticulous observance of time, particularly the Sabbath, festivals, and Jubilee years, is not merely a cultural or religious practice, but a central pillar of the divine order that governs the universe. These laws of timekeeping are intricately presented as part of the heavenly tablets, divine records that encapsulate God's eternal commandments. Following these laws is portrayed as a way of aligning oneself with the divine rhythm of the universe, ensuring that human actions are in harmony with God's overarching plan. This alignment is not only spiritual but also cosmic, suggesting that human observance of these laws has far-reaching implications beyond individual piety. Jubilees places a significant emphasis on the solar calendar over the lunar calendar, advocating for a year consisting of exactly 364 days. This solar system is meticulously designed to ensure that all festivals and Sabbaths fall on their proper, unchanging days each year. The precision of this system is highlighted as a reflection of God's perfect order, where each day and season has its designated place within the divine framework. By maintaining a solar calendar, humanity can live in perfect synchronization with God's will, avoiding the discrepancies and spiritual disarray that can arise from an irregular lunar calendar. The Book of Jubilees issues a stern warning against deviating from this divine calendar, asserting that such deviations can lead to significant spiritual disorder. This concern underscores the importance Jubilees places on accurate timekeeping as a means of maintaining spiritual integrity and divine favor. The text reinforces this by quoting a direct command from God to Moses. And the Lord spoke to Moses and said, Write down for Israel the law of the Sabbath and the festivals, for these times are ordained on the heavenly tablets, and you must observe them exactly lest you fall into error. This directive underscores the eternal and unchanging nature of these laws, emphasizing their critical role in guiding the faithful. This profound focus on the cosmic calendar is not as prominently featured in the traditional Bible, where the Sabbath and festivals are acknowledged, but without the same depth of emphasis on their cosmic origins and their role in maintaining divine order. Jubilees, however, stresses that adhering to the celestial calendar is essential for remaining in God's favor. By following the solar calendar, individuals align their lives with the divine plan, ensuring that their actions and observances are in harmony with God's will. While the Mosaic Law in the traditional Bible is given specifically to the Israelites as part of their covenant with God, Jubilees presents these laws as eternal and binding not only for Israel, but for all generations and even the angels. This universality suggests that the commandments inscribed on the heavenly tablets are not merely temporary guidelines intended for a single nation, but are eternal commandments that govern both heaven and earth. In Jubilees, the laws given to Moses are depicted as part of a universal order meant to be observed by all of God's creation. This includes not only humans, but also angels, who are portrayed as diligent keepers of the Sabbath and observant of God's festivals in heaven. This portrayal elevates the Mosaic Law from a set of national regulations to a fundamental aspect of the universal order, bridging the spiritual realm with the physical world. The law given to Moses on Mount Sinai is depicted as eternal and unchanging, meant to be observed both in heaven and on earth. The angels, as celestial beings, keep the Sabbath in heaven, serving as models of perfect observance for humanity to emulate. The righteous, therefore, are expected to observe these commandments forever, ensuring a continuous alignment with the divine will. The idea of the eternal law is more explicitly articulated in Jubilees compared to the traditional Bible, where the focus is primarily on the covenant between God and Israel. In Jubilees, the law is woven into the very fabric of the universe, binding both angels and humans to God's cosmic order. This binding is portrayed as essential for maintaining the balance and harmony of the cosmos, highlighting the interconnectedness of all creation under God's divine authority. In Jubilees, the future of Israel is not portrayed as a series of random or isolated events, but as part of a grander cosmic plan that has already been determined. The book places a strong emphasis on the role of angels throughout Israel's history, illustrating how their involvement becomes even more critical as the end times approach. Angels of the Lord are depicted as executors of God's judgment on the nations, ensuring that his divine will is faithfully carried out both in heaven and on earth. This dual role emphasizes the angels' integral part in maintaining the balance between divine justice and mercy. As the end of days approaches, Jubilees describes a dramatic scenario where angels will descend to separate the righteous from the wicked. This separation is not merely a physical act, but a profound spiritual discernment, gathering those who will remain faithful to God's commandments. The righteous are elevated and rewarded, while the wicked are left to face the consequences of their disobedience. This final act of separation underscores the importance of adherence to the divine calendar and the laws inscribed on the heavenly tablets, reinforcing the message that spiritual discipline and obedience are paramount for divine favor and ultimate salvation. Furthermore, Jubilees expands on the traditional understanding of the Sabbath and festivals by integrating them into the cosmic order. The Sabbath is not just a day of rest, but a pivotal element that reflects the underlying structure of time itself. By observing the Sabbath and festivals in accordance with the solar calendar, individuals participate in a sacred rhythm that mirrors the divine order established at creation. This participation is seen as a way of connecting with the eternal cycle of creation, rest, and renewal, ensuring that one's life remains in harmony with God's eternal plan. In addition to emphasizing the solar calendar, Jubilees also introduces the concept of Jubilee years, periods of liberation and renewal that occur every 49 years. These Jubilee years are intricately linked to the cosmic calendar, serving as pivotal moments for resetting and realigning with God's divine order. During Jubilee years, slaves are freed, debts are forgiven, and land is returned to its original owners, symbolizing a restoration of balance and harmony within society. This practice reinforces the idea that divine laws are meant to promote social justice, economic stability, and spiritual well-being, ensuring that humanity remains in sync with the divine rhythm of the universe. Jubilees also highlights the role of angels in maintaining the sacred calendar, portraying them as active participants in the governance of time and seasons. These angels are not passive observers, but are depicted as divine agents who ensure that the celestial cycles proceed according to God's ordained plan. By overseeing the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, these angels help sustain the cosmic balance, preventing the chaos that can arise from temporal disarray. This active involvement of angels in timekeeping underscores the interconnectedness of celestial and terrestrial realms, illustrating how divine order permeates every aspect of creation. The Book of Jubilees, therefore, presents a comprehensive vision of timekeeping that integrates religious observance with cosmic harmony. By advocating for a solar calendar and emphasizing the eternal nature of the Sabbath and festivals, Jubilees offers a framework for living that is deeply rooted in divine order. This framework is designed to guide individuals and communities in maintaining spiritual discipline, social justice, and economic stability, ensuring that humanity remains aligned with God's eternal plan. In summary, the Book of Jubilees significantly expands upon the traditional narrative of the Mosaic Law by introducing the concept of a cosmic calendar and integrating the observance of time into the divine order. By presenting these laws as part of the heavenly tablets and emphasizing their eternal and universal nature, Jubilees offers a profound perspective on how humanity can live in harmony with God's will. The books focus on the solar calendar, the role of angels in timekeeping, and the integration of Sabbath and Jubilee observances into the cosmic order underscores the importance of aligning human life with divine rhythms. This alignment is portrayed as essential for maintaining spiritual integrity, social justice, and cosmic harmony, highlighting the interconnectedness of all creation under God's divine authority. The book also introduces the idea that Master, the leader of the evil spirits, will be bound and cast into the abyss, symbolizing the ultimate defeat of the forces of darkness. And the Lord will send his angels to gather his chosen, and they shall bind the prince of the evil spirits, casting him into the abyss until the time of judgment, when he shall be destroyed forever. This portrayal of angels as agents of divine justice adds a unique layer to the end times prophecy. While the traditional Bible speaks of angels in the context of judgment in Revelation, Jubilees presents a detailed vision of their role in the spiritual warfare that will unfold in the last days. One of the central themes in Jubilees is the prophetic vision of Israel's redemption. The book emphasizes that despite Israel's rebellion and exile, God has already determined a time when they will be restored to their land and renewed in their covenant with him. This restoration is not just a political event. It's a spiritual renewal that aligns with the cosmic plan written in the heavenly tablets. According to Jubilees, the redemption of Israel will come after a period of great tribulation during which the nation will be purified, the law will be reestablished, and the people will once again walk in holiness, preparing them for the coming of Messiah and the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. Earth and time will come when the children of Israel will turn back to the Lord with all their heart, and he will gather them from the nations and establish them in their land, as it was written on the heavenly tablets. While the traditional Bible also speaks of Israel's restoration in books like Isaiah and Jeremiah, Jubilees adds the detail that this restoration is part of a predetermined timeline with specific events already recorded in the heavenly records. In the end times, Jubilees describes the coming of a messianic kingdom where God's chosen ruler, often interpreted as a Messiah, will establish righteousness on earth. The book emphasizes that this kingdom will mark the end of the current age and the beginning of God's eternal rule, where the law will be upheld and the righteous will inherit the earth. The final judgment in Jubilees involves the separation of the righteous from the wicked, with the wicked being cast into the lake of fire, where they will be destroyed forever. Master and his evil spirits will be defeated, and the Messiah will rule in peace and justice. This vision of the end times is consistent with the apocalyptic imagery found in the Book of Revelation, but Jubilees adds more emphasis on the role of the law and the cosmic order being restored. And the Lord will establish his kingdom on earth, and the righteous shall rule with him. For the law shall be written on their hearts, and the wicked shall be cast into the lake of fire. This messianic kingdom in Jubilees reflects a vision of a restored creation where the law is fully observed, and the righteous are rewarded for their faithfulness. The final judgment brings about the ultimate defeat of evil, ushering in an era of eternal peace. Reflecting on his 92 years with bright eyes, Dr. Chin embodies the wisdom he imparts. When properly cared for, the feet, armpits, inner thighs, and back and scalp work together to maintain circulation, boost immunity, support vital organs, and enhance mental clarity. The secret to making these practices stick is to start small, beginning with just 5 minutes in the morning and evening. focusing on one area at a time until it becomes natural, and then gradually adding another area. Dr. Chen often tells his patients that consistency trumps intensity. At 92, Dr. Chen still sees patients twice weekly, plays chess daily, and tends his garden every morning. These simple washing and care routines have kept him independent and sharp, and they can do the same for you. If you found value in these life-changing insights, don't keep them to yourself. Share this video with someone who could benefit. Hit subscribe for more wellness wisdom, and let us know in the comments which area you'll start caring for today. Remember, it's never too late to start investing in your health. See you in the next video.